I was born and reared here in Covington. It was just four of us. And I used to have a lot of relatives here, but most of them are deceased. But even when I was in high school, I liked to mix up stuff, you know what I'm saying? And so I was a member of the NAACP before I was in high school. They used to have a junior chapter of it, and I attended it. And I was just always active in different things here in Covington. And then for some reason, Emmett Till's death struck me. And every time I saw that picture, it was just really did something to me. So I just felt like something ain't right. But coming up in Covington and being a girl, you wasn't gonna go to many places in my age because our parents didn't allow it. We don't float around like these kids do this day. First of all, we didn't have nothing to float around in and didn't have no money to pay for it then. So, we learned to do things for ourselves, and we were taught different things, skills that a lot of these kids need to know today, but they'll never know because they don't know how essential it is when you get older to understand some of those things they were trying to tell you when you were younger and foolish and didn't want to listen to nobody, and when you knew everything, so nobody need to tell you anything. I was the first black at the newspaper in Covington. And to work somewhere for a while and people not answer you just like you were invisible. Every day I came home, I was gonna quit. My mama wouldn't let me. So I ended up being at the newspaper 18 years. And after I left the newspaper, I went to work. My mother was in work for the Board of Education, and I used to tease her about it. Then I ended up working for the Board of Education in the library. Of course, I'm not fitted for the library because they're supposed to be quiet, and that wasn't me, but they said they were looking for a change, and I definitely would be it. So I was with the Board of Education 31 years. Every person who had run for office, I had helped them. Some of those persons, I had also written their speeches. So one day we were having a meeting and they told me, Janet, we think it's about time you run. I said, y'all don't tell me what to do. They said, well, you need to run. You've helped everybody else. You need to do this yourself. And I said, no, I don't want to do that because people be all in your business. And they said, well, you ain't really got none. I said, that's beside the point. So I decided to run. And I won. And I was told by some white friends of mine that the guy that I ran against was telling people he wasn't worried about me. And somebody told him, you need to worry. So that night when I went in to be sworn in, I was invisible to him. He passed by me like he had never seen me before. And I was just so proud because I knew that I had got him where it hurt. Well, like I said, because I was active, and sometimes to be able to make changes, you need to be in there where the changes are made, and that had me wanting to be a part of something, because sometimes you can't change things from the inside because you don't know how that works. But if you know what's happened from the very beginning, it may be something you can do or talk to somebody else and try to fix it. So that was my point. I wanted to be able to make Covington better I didn't have a good childhood in Covington because of the way I was treated as a child. So it's not the fact, I didn't join this because I had such a good life here in Covington. I joined it because there needed to be a change. Even at the newspaper, when I was in the 7th grade a few years ago, I won in a science project. And you had, whatever I made, you had to put it together, then it would spark. So my picture was on the front page of the Covington News down to the very end. And the kids at school was making fun of me because the picture was so black, you could only see my pigtails and my socks. So one of my girlfriends said, Janet, don't pay them no attention. She said, they can't see you, but they can read your name, girl. And then I just went on, I didn't think about that. I used to, when I was in high school, a lot of afternoons I would go uptown and sit on those stools uptown. Never, and most of the time they just wouldn't say nothing to me. But then, one day when I went up there were no more stools. There were 3 drugstores in town. All of them had stools, but they no longer had stools. They would rather stand up than allow me to sit down. And my mama would tell me a lot of days, I'm talking about when I was in high school now, a lot of days mama said, now Janet, don't go uptown messing with the white folks. I told you about that. Said to myself, okay, not till I get up there. Because I knew that's what I was going to do because I did it all the time. And then we had people who were mean. My father used to take me and show me how to fill out a money and all this kind of stuff. I was probably in middle school. My mother was the first traffic officer in Covington. It would help kids cross the street and stuff. And so she sent my dad down there to pick up her check because she was sick. So when we got down there, my dad said, Jana, you mind going your mama's check? I said, no, I'll go. And I went in there and I told them what I wanted. And they pointed to where I needed to go, and it was to the clerk's office in City Hall. That woman talked to me so mean, and I ain't never forgot it. And I'm not gonna tell who it was, but I was able to sell a few things with her years later. So when I got back to the car, my dad said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Nothing." He said, "Yes, it is." And I told him. He said, "Well, don't tell your mama, cause I didn't have no business sending you in there in the first place." He said, "So we'll just keep it, and I won't never make that mistake again. Okay?" I said, "Okay." Then one Saturday, I'm just gonna tell one more. I went to the shoe store in Covington. It was called Bill's Shoe Shop to pick up some shoes. And I went in, and I told him my name and everything. And whatever he asked me, I said yes. And he asked something. I said yes. He told me, "You ain't gonna say no yes to me. You know what he called me." So he had the shoes, so he just threw them back up on the counter. So I went back to the car. My dad said, "Janet, the shoes weren't ready." I said, "Yes, sir, they were ready." He said, "What happened?" I said, "The man wouldn't let me have them." He said, "Why?" And I told him. He said, "Let me go in here." He said, "Sit here." He said, "No, I don't want you to sit." He said, "Come on, let's go." He went in there. He said, "I understand that my daughter picked up some shoes and you wouldn't let her have them." No, she wouldn't say yes. He said, "She doesn't have to say yes, sir, to you." She said, "I know my daughter wasn't disrespectful because I didn't teach her that." He said, "She's taught to say yes and no, or yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am." He said, "Now give me them shoes." And he slammed them on the counter, and then Dad asked him how much they were. He told him. When we got back to the car, my dad said, "Jan," said, "I can buy you another pair of shoes. I can't buy another daughter." I said, "Okay." So I was just always on the rim of things, trying to get things passed. Now, the sheriff in Covington, if blacks were having a meeting and I was going to be in the meeting, he would not meet with them because he was so fond of me. So a lot of times people have to meet with he refused to meet with me. One of the changes were we had the square. We were not allowed in that park, period. There was a sign on the steps out here that said white only. And they had a white water dispenser over there. When you went into a lot of these doctor's offices, they had the audacity to have a side door or either just somewhere you to enter, but everybody else came in the front door. So I didn't like that. And whoever dentist I went to, I didn't want to go back no more because we were in there and I heard other people talking and I peeped around and I saw they had a nice place to be. And here I am in something about big as me. I didn't want to give him my money. A lot of people don't remember mistreating people, but the person that you mistreated, never forget it. Now, my brother had a hard time at Newton High. Just about every Monday, we used to kid my mother and daddy because they had to go to Newton High every Monday morning because my brother got in a fight. So, but then it turned around and he got better. And then some of the guys that he fought all the time, they became best friends. So that worked out good. There was a time when you could go in the store and you could spend all the money you wanted, but there was nobody like you in any of those stores. I remember distinctly Coins was one that hired blacks, and then Hoppers. So and then there was only one place in Covington around the square that had air conditioning. And I remember, not only did it have air conditioning, it had an elevator. So a lot of people made their business to go to Bill's to buy something. And then me, I just like to ride the elevator because that was just something you didn't see that often. Well, I think if I had taken the other road, I would be a national activist. But I chose not to do that. And see, some of these same people that I'm talking about, they still exist today. And I didn't forget it now. But you have to move on and try to fix things because you fix them for everybody. And young people are not like that because they weren't brought up separate and not equal. They were brought up equal as far as they were concerned. And they do not discriminate against each other. They don't see color like we were taught to see color. And we were forced to see it because that's all we could see. So, and working with young people, you act a little bit different because they sometimes I said something, oh, Miss G, you just old school. I said, Miss G, oh, she's supposed to be old school. But then they're going to listen to me, though, every single time. Or if not, they'll come back and say, well, Miss G, you was right. I said, I know what I told you in the first place. And then at school sometimes when some of the kids would be doing, in college, and the parents be talking to them about doing something they didn't want to do, they'd call me. Miss Goodman, you need to talk to your boy, he not this and that. And so I got a lot of insight from them, and then when they want to know something and they find out how things really were, they think that only happened on TV. Oh, my parents, every time I thought I couldn't do something, they didn't want to hear it. Say, well, because sometimes you can try so hard to do something and you just give up, but don't care what it was. I had their backing and I knew that. And I wasn't saying right or wrong because I wasn't wrong. But I knew that whatever it was, that I had two people that was going to go along with whatever I wanted to do. I would like my legacy to be that I always thought of somebody other than myself, that I was kind to everybody, compassionate to teenagers and youth, and just tried to be a better person. Not only in the eye when people can look at me, but be a better person, period. So that when somebody says something about me, they can be corrected and find out. Because most of the time, if you want to know how I'm feeling about something, all you have to do is ask, and I'll tell you. When I got on the council, I thought it was going to be so difficult for me, but they were so welcoming, and that was from the day I went there until the day I left. So we never had any qualms or anything like folk did, and we got along and we made sure that the people had what they needed, and much was accomplished.